Uh, my question is, maybe 20 years ago, I started in counseling and learned a lot about boundaries. I
Okay,
came from
Gina,
basically,
Gina, I'm
yes.
sorry. I had forgotten your question was about counseling. And we just had a dating call, and I thought you were going to say, about 20 years ago, I started dating this guy. And I was going, whoa, that is too much time. All right. So 20 years ago, you started learning about counseling. Is that what you said?
Learning about counseling. Yeah, I grew up in basically in a meshed family with just I just wasn't allowed to be myself. A lot of expectations that I make everybody happy. Um, so I learned about that. This counselor really brought me into understanding of boundaries, and that really sort of changed my
Oh,
life
wait.
at
So
that point.
20 years ago, you did more than learn about counseling. 20 years ago, you went into counseling
Yes, yes,
to start
um,
disengaging from your enmeshed family. Is that right?
yes, yes, and
And
that's been very
how old
empowering. It's
were
been
you?
very good.
How old were you
At that
then?
time, I was 20. 20.
20. Okay, great. So now you're unenmeshed, footloose, fancy free. You're a grown adult with the world
Yeah,
as
I'm
your
working on
oyster.
it. Yeah, I'm working on it. It's still hard to know how to be kind and how to not be enmeshed. There's still some guilt there, but um, a counselor I have currently, um, a very good Christian guy, recommended boundaries. So I was like, okay, this is good. But I feel like he uses a lot of guilt to counsel me, and I don't know if it's just triggers or
That's
I don't want to
interesting.
grow,
What
or
would be an example of a counselor using guilt? I mean,
using
I
guilt.
can think of
Okay.
some, but how do you
Yeah.
experience that
So
he's doing
I can
this?
think of it. Yes. So one of the topics I brought up with him was the fact that when my husband and I met, my husband just wasn't honest about who he was. We met long distance. And so I really didn't have any way of. He had all the right answers, but he really wasn't living that life. He knew how to live it, but he wasn't doing it. So I have longstanding trust issues that I'm trying to unroot. So the first time I brought this topic up to him,
Wait a minute,
I told
hold on
him
a
about
second. Your
Yes,
husband was telling you he was a certain way, but he really wasn't.
right, right.
You hadn't had time to watch him and experience the relationship and learn that he wasn't, or you couldn't
It was a
see
long
it,
distance
or
relationship. Yeah, it was a long distance relationship. So I didn't live around him. He had the
okay.
right answers,
First
but
time you lived around
yeah,
him was first time you lived around him was when you married.
yes, yes. We got engaged from a
Okay.
distance, and then
Okay.
uh
Are y'all
yeah,
still married?
yes, and it's a good marriage. But
Good.
I just
Cool.
have I just have just long-standing trust issues, and uh, that what the counselor said to me was that, gosh, that sounds like a grudge, and that hurt.
What what
I,
what
I just
what what
mhm,
what sounds like a grudge?
the fact that I still have trust issues with my husband.
Based on the past or based on what he's doing now?
No, what he's doing now is good. He has some behaviors that he didn't grow up with boundaries either, so he has some behaviors that he's trying to work his way out of, but they still sort of trigger. And I wonder, like, okay, basically he lied a lot, and so I know that he is
Is he
good at.
lying
I know
now?
he has that
Is he
capability.
lying
No, I
now?
don't think so.
Okay,
No,
so
I
his
don't think so.
lying is
Not in
over.
a right.
His lying look
Maliceful lying. I think. Yeah.
look, so if your counselor says it sounds like a grudge, is he saying you're holding on to stuff from the past too much? Is that what he's saying?
Uh, yes. And what I want him to do instead of saying that is to help me work through it. Because I feel like it sounds like a grudge just makes me want to shut down. And I really want
Why?
to know
Why?
why.
Why? Why? Why?
Uh-huh.
Why? 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 Why would that make you want to shut
Um, uh, it feels accusatory because a grudge is a bad thing.
down?
Um,
So?
and I don't
So
think
whoa,
I'm
whoa,
doing
whoa,
something
whoa,
bad.
whoa, whoa, hang on,
Okay.
hang on, hang on.
Okay. Okay.
So what?
It makes me feel like I'm doing it wrong.
So what? Why can't
I don't
we?
know.
I don't know if I don't know if you have a grudge or not. Okay. I don't know if he's right or
Yeah.
wrong.
Uh,
What I'm asking
mhm.
you is, in our lives, if
Mhm.
somebody says, well, it sounds like you're holding a grudge.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's by definition, he's saying, it sounds like to me you're doing something wrong, in your words, right?
Yes.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with somebody thinking that you might be doing something wrong? Why would that make you
Uh,
shut down?
um, if I'm doing something wrong, I want to know what I'm doing wrong. I just
Yeah,
uh
that's
the
okay, but
the way yeah, the way he approached it made me feel like, oh gosh, I shouldn't tell him anymore. He'll think that I'm really bad.
hmm, does he treat you like you're really bad a lot? Accuse you of things you're not
Um,
doing, unrealistic expectations, shame you?
um, I often feel like when I am talking to him, uh, he answers my questions quickly, and then I have to explain, like, no, that's not what I'm thinking. I feel kind of lumped into a certain group. I don't feel like he necessarily
Hmm.
listens to what I'm trying to say.
Do
It
you
seems
do
like
you
he kind of
feel
already
like
knows what I'm saying.
do you feel like I'm doing that now?
No,
No?
no.
Is that some okay. Well, let me tell you why I ask you what you ask.
Sure.
Um, you know, there's three or four components to what you could be experiencing. Okay. Sometimes when we have been hurt in life, then we have, like you said, I have trust issues. Well, why would we have trust issues? Because we've been hurt in trust, right? My trust muscle's broken. Somebody stepped on it. All right. And then we come into a relationship, and that relationship may not have any issues in it, but we could have trust issues even in a good relationship because we've been hurt. Second thing is sometimes we've been hurt in that relationship. Now, that's your scenario, right? Your husband,
Yeah.
excuse me, your husband actually did betray your trust in some ways from what you've told me in the past, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that would also very good. I'm not going to call it a grudge, but very good that you would be wary to trust again, right? I mean,
Yes.
we learn and we make maps of the world based on our experience. And if you've been lied to and this said no, that you made a map, this man lies to me and he's saying, well, let's go forward and I'm doing better. Well, I don't know because last time that's very good. That's the way God designed your brain. All right.
Yes.
But the third thing is trust always has to do with the future. Forgiveness has to do with the
Okay.
past.
Okay.
And some people say, well, if I've forgiven you, then they'll say, well, you're not trusting me. You ought to forgive me. No, I've forgiven you for what's happened. I don't trust you yet for what's going to happen. To put my heart in your hands or to believe you on this, because trust is about the future. Forgiveness is about the past. Trust is earned.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what this may be semantics, that what he might be saying is when he says that sounds like a grudge, I would want to clarify and say, well, are you saying that I'm holding on to past injury because I haven't forgiven him? Or are you saying I'm holding on to past behavior and judging him from that because current behavior is totally trustworthy. Let's clarify what you
Yeah.
mean by grudge. Are we talking about? And so what I
Okay.
would suggest two things to you here. This could be a great moment for you and your counselor, because some of the richest times in a therapeutic relationship is when the client is feeling something, and it's really in relation to the counselor,
Yes.
and then they talk about that. Because here's the possible, and I don't know the answer because I'm not there, but here's the possible scenarios. You may be feeling like you want to shut down and you're being criticized because that may be triggering critical parental or other voices in your head that he's not doing, but it feels that way. It's
Okay.
called transference.
Yeah.
It may be that it really did kind of sound harsh and like you're bad and this, that, and the other. And when you tell him, he might have to say, you know what? I'm sorry I felt that way. Yeah, I can see that. The way I said that, that probably wasn't the best way to say that. I'm sorry. And then he could, but the richness in this is for the two of you talking about it. And
Okay.
over time, if a dynamic is unresolvable between, or doesn't get resolved, sometimes they suggest, they decide, you know what, I may not be the best person for you, or you decide you may not be the best counselor for me. But in
Okay.
just this one comment and the way that's going on, I think y'all ought to talk about it, because it would be a good
Yeah.
thing to tell him and to see where it goes from there.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure I was allowed to say that to a counselor. It makes me, I don't want to just be a nightmare client that starts having problems with the counselor too. So.
Whoa, I wish we had more time. I wish we had more time. Look, it's his responsibility to protect himself from nightmares,
Okay.
not yours.
Okay.
To tell him how you feel and be honest and complain and all of that, that's got to be talked about. As you talk about that, then the two of you figure out where it's coming from. But you have as a consumer, you have every right to question everything about your counseling, and the two of you talk about it.
Okay.
It's be a great conversation and figure out the difference between a grudge, a wound, lack of forgiveness, and a valid hesitancy because you haven't seen enough current trustworthy behavior in order to trust, because that's going to take time. And what you want to see with anybody, your husband or the counselor or anybody else, is my trust is earnable. Now, if I'm holding a grudge, my trust isn't earnable because I'm going to be withholding with you to punish you for the past. But if I've forgiven you, now I'm in a neutral place for going forward. And I want to trust you, but I'm only going to trust as I see validation of behaviors that are trustworthy. And that makes for a really
Okay.
good conversation. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations on working out of your enmeshment history. I would encourage you to keep doing that. The feeling of you're not allowed to, to say these things, complain to your counselor, that feeling of not allowed, that's the same phrase you used when you were talking about your family of origin. You said you weren't allowed to. I would want to, if I were feeling that, I'd want to say to my counselor, you know what? I noticed that there's a lot of situations I feel like I'm not allowed to, but I'm an adult. Why do I feel like I'm not allowed to, unless it's illegal or unethical? Why do I feel like I'm not allowed to do things that I'm perfectly free to do? And that might be something good to talk about too.